Open your mind to the way, the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. Hey, Seafood Buggy here once again, and welcome to the Way of Conscious Mindfulness. So, before we begin, who the heck am I, and what's this show all about? Well, my name is Paul Bryson, but most people actually know me as Seafood Buggy. Sifu means guide, muse, somebody who points you along the way, who guides you on your path. Buggy means the balancer between the chaos and the calmness. And for the last 37 years, I have been studying the Taoist arts. The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. And my teachers very much taught me many different techniques and ideas in the Taoist path. And one of them is that everything you learn enhances everything else you do. So therefore, I have studied Tai Chi, Qigong, Tita, Tuina, Chinese massage, reflexology, acupressure, Shun Chi Shen, which is Chinese Reiki, Japanese Reiki as well as Western Reiki, different healing modalities, different philosophies, all in the art, all for the art of knowledge, for the love of knowledge, which is where the word philo or philosophy actually comes from. And my teachers very much believed everything you do enhances everything else you do. And also they taught me to be a healer for healers, a Sifu for Sifus, and to help people, especially healers, light workers and coaches, but anybody who needs it, to supercharge themselves and ensure they never burn out. So that was me. What's this show all about? Well, this show is the Way of Conscious Mindfulness, which is a regular Facebook Live / Zoom / podcast show, because we're bringing in Zoom. And each show, we either have a topic or a guest, and our goal is to blend science and spirituality with mind, body and spirit, and health and well-being, with a Taoist twist. Again, what does the Tao mean? The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. So, surprise, surprise, this isn't a normal talk show. Anything with moi in it is not normal. Each week we either have, each show we either have a subject or a guest. And tonight we have a very awesome guest, a very powerful guest with some great light code, artwork, whatever you want to call it. But we will talk about that later, and we'll be showing you some later. So without further ado, and a few twitches and clicks and whirls and all of that sort of stuff, I will bring on the wonderful, the lovely, the awesome, the amazing, the very rather powerful Denise Chadwick. Hello, Denise. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm okay. I am good. I'm a little bit croaky. I've actually been ill the first time in 2.5 years, which is pretty good for me. So had a little bit of a chest infection, or just a cold, heavy flu, but burning it off. So it's all good in the hood. But yes, it's all cool. Right, okay, right. Is everybody okay on sound? Somebody says, Teresa is saying no sound. Teresa, you're not going to hear me saying this, but come out, go back in, maybe. Or is everybody else okay? If we could, it takes a couple of seconds for people to reply, but so they're not getting audio. So there's 2 people who say now they're not getting audio. Okay, let me just quickly get on there myself. So let's just double check. Quickly Get on there, I've got audio. So let's just double. Yeah, I can hear myself. I can hear my dulcet tones. So sounds okay. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, if you've audio trouble, maybe jump out, come back in. But we definitely got audio on this side. So anyway, let's talk more, dude. So, Denise, we're going to ask my niche question, the niche question of this show, and that is, so this is your show. This is the Way of Denise Chadwick. So, Denise, what is your way? What is your personal Tao?
Thank you for inviting me on the show, first of all. It feels amazing to be here. Thank you. Okay, what is my Tao? That's quite a big question. So, in December 2000, I received a Reiki treatment from somebody, and that was actually really life-changing for me. Up until that point, I was a nurse and quite scientific in how I viewed the world and the body especially. Didn't believe in energy, didn't even believe in things like reflexology, acupuncture. Mm-hmm. But then when I had a treatment, that just changed everything. Like my whole life changed at that point. And I bought myself a book on Reiki December 2000 and had my first level 1 Reiki attunement in traditional Reiki the following May. And then everything really, really changed. Started to get interested in crystals and could feel their energy. That was the mind-blowing thing to me, that I could actually feel energy. So from that point, I'm a Reiki master in 5 different kinds of Reiki. Mm-hmm. So was constantly having attunements and really learnt how to bring that energy into my own body. So this is my Tao, really. It's bringing energy into my own physical being. And learning Reiki really opened huge doors for me, and then everything kind of changed. So I've also learnt kinesiology, which I'm not a practitioner in, but I learnt the techniques, but I didn't do my 96 hours of practice. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I use techniques, but I can't call myself a kinesiologist. Mm-hmm. And all the things that I've learnt have kind of like, they're all tools in the toolbox. Yeah. But I think all of us who start this journey, we've done it before. We've done it in previous lives, or it's in our DNA. Like, we have a knowing. And we tap into that knowing once we're kind of connected to the energy. I also learned theta healing as well. And in theta healing, you learn about dissolving patterns and programs, which is really useful now. And whenever you're faced with something, whenever there's a trigger or something significant is happening in your world, it's kind of like, okay, what's this for me? Is this part of my shadow work? That's something else that I do a lot of as well, shadow work. What is this for me? What is the universe showing me, either about myself or, ways that I can kind of like move forward, learn more about myself and dissolve those patterns that we're working from, because we're very much programmed, and usually programmed quite negatively. So we hold these beliefs and distortions in our field, and we create the world from those distorted beliefs. And we see the world through those distorted belief glasses as well. So I spend quite a lot of time, and have done since I learned Reiki, actually doing it on myself, bringing that energy into my own body. The way things have changed in the last few years has been the introduction of light language into my world. And for those that don't know, the way that I kind of explain light language, when you've been bringing the energy through, channeling the energy, however you want to phrase it, you kind of become that energy after a while. You embody that energy. And it's almost like you have a tube that comes down the middle of your body, and the energy runs through there. And the less negative energy there is in there, the more space there is for you. And the more energy work you do on yourself or other people, exactly that, the bigger your inner lightsaber becomes. So you become that inner lightsaber. It kind of is there in your whole field, bringing awesome colours into it as you are doing now. So you kind of embody that energy. I was going to go somewhere else, and I think the lightsaber might have just...
I know. I'm full of props and toys, and I distract people all the time, so it's all good. But
light language.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. I love the toys. If I had a lightsaber, I would be holding mine right now as well.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second, because it's not technically a toy. It's not even technically a prop. It's a metaphor. But anyway, you would say so. Light language.
So you kind of become the light and the love that you're bringing forward into the world. And you bring it forward in your hands, but you're actually emitting it from every cell of your body, because you are that light and the love. And it also comes through in your words. So if people are chefs, for example, it will come through in their cooking. They'll put that energy into the food. If people write, the energy will come through in the writing. If people sing or create music, it'll come through in their voice. And that's what light language is. It's the light and the love that is actually coming through your mouth. It can come through in the form of tones or frequencies, or it can come through in what sounds like words. Words are the nearest... They're more like words. They sound like words. They're technically probably not actually words, and you can't just translate a light language word for a word in English, for example. You might be able to, but it's very quantum, light language. So one word of light language might be a whole dictionary of words in English.
Yeah, it's a bit like Chinese.
Yeah, because it does work on that quantum level. And I found I use sound as well. That was something else that I brought into my treatments, sound. So I still do have chimes that I put on the body. And then you can hear the effect that the chime's having on the body. When the energy is blocked, the chimes don't resonate very much. They don't. They just sound muffled. And then if you lift the chime off the body, it starts to resonate. You put it back on the body, it stops. There were times when I thought the chime was broken, and I'd be lifting it up and going, "Oh, it's working. Oh, it's not working. Oh, it's working." And then I started to sing into the body. So I actually use my voice now to sing into the body. So my hands are on or above the body as I'm doing it. So I can feel with my hands the effect that it's having as and when, instead of just hearing it as well, like I used to with the chimes. And light language increases the energy that you bring forward in a treatment by maybe 10 times. It makes it so much more powerful. And I would find that bringing light language through as my hands were there, things just clear. They just clear straight away. They're kind of like transmuted to love, taken to source, whatever, but really quite easily. And you can do light language transmissions for particular purposes. At the minute, I'm doing a 21-day light language transmission Facebook Lives at the moment. And each time so far, they've been for a different purpose. So today was for activating sacral chakra, but specifically activating the womb energy, which we all have, whether or not we have a physical womb, male or female, we have that womb energy. Yep. And it's where our creativity comes from. So that was what today's activation was for. But you can use it for such a myriad of things. Now when I do it in my treatments, in my sessions, it will unblock the energy, but it will also take away distorted beliefs and put new divine blueprints in. And the language of light, it's like the codes of creation. And we are really changing as humans. We're evolving. It doesn't even feel quite the right word, but it's the nearest one that I can find. Our energy system is really changing at the moment. So the light language activations, and specifically the crystalline frequencies that I bring through really easily, are opening up crystalline pathways of energy in the body. One of the ones that I did last week was for the area between your solar plexus and your heart. And the wording that came through for that, if I can find that, was the solar heart crystalline node of energy, which is, so you've got your heart chakra there and you've got solar plexus there, and it's that space between, that space right at the where your sternal notches, I think is what it's called, if I remember back to my lesson days. And I've been working on myself a lot in that area. I've had physical symptoms relating to this. But my feeling was that I'm just clearing and clearing and clearing for the collective, and that this actually is a new node of energy. And it feels like you've got your higher heart area here. This almost feels like lower heart here. I used to feel it was lower down, and perhaps it's there as well. But it feels to me that this is loving empowerment, because your solar plexus is all about power, being in our power. But this is about our power coming from love.
Yeah. And yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. So my thing when the reason why do I bring a lightsaber to a show, to a spiritual show? Well, because George Lucas, when he created the story of Star Wars, the inspiration for the information came from the East, came from China and the Middle East, from Egypt, and the word Jedi actually is an Egyptian word, and it has a little D in it. It says "Du Jedi," and it means the keeper of the pillar of light. So the lightsaber is the Jedi are the keepers of the pillar of light. They're the keepers of the lightsaber, and within the Eastern philosophy, that the light. You have. Oh, actually, you can't see it. I always do it the wrong way. So we have the Kundalini behind me, and the Eastern version of the Kundalini. It's a bit wrapped up at the moment, but the Eastern version of the Kundalini, instead of a serpent, it's two dragons, and the fire energy wraps up curls up. Oh, here comes the char. The char's coming out. Cool. The serpent curls up the chakras. And the light comes straight down the center. And when you actually balance them, you in essence create Tai Chi. So you or what the Taoists would call the or the ancient ones called the silver mist. So the whole point of when people only do Kundalini energy and then wonder why they get very, very powerful, very emotional, it feels very powerful at first, but then they get hooked very much in their emotions, is because you're just activating the fire. And you need to activate both. You need to activate both the fire and the light to create that balance. And it does lots of different things. But yeah, that's just like I said, that's what my teachers taught. And so the ancient knowledge was this weird spiritual scientific sort of mismatch of different. They already believed in quantum physics. They already believed in multi-dimensions. They just had different. They think they just like Nissan Harriman, which is a modern day scientist, physicist. Just like him, they not only believed that, or they knew that the star has a black hole. Our sun has and every star has a black hole in the center of it. And in actual fact, the atoms inside our bodies have tiny little black holes inside of them. So you want to travel the universe? You don't even have to bother with astral traveling. You've got so many black holes inside of you. Just channel into one of them, and you can go anywhere in the world. And the whole thing of like supercharging yourself and ensuring you never burn out. It's the same sort of thing. You've got so much energy already in your body. There's great ways of activating it, activating that energy indeed. It's spelt. No, there's a D in it. There's a D in it, but anyway, I'll agree with you, Jed. I see what you've done there. Very cool. Yes, Jed. Jedi, indeed. Very cool. Thank you, Kathy. You're more than welcome. So, yeah, for me, I love this thing of with the light language, even with the Reiki. I think one of the things my teachers taught, and in traditional Japanese Reiki and Chinese Reiki, in the East at least, there's two things that they taught. Is that one is that they would do Qigong with as part of their Reiki practice. The Qigong is energizing exercise. It can be really simple. It can be really complicated. And the irony is Qigongs actually end up being you being a symbol. You know, and that's the whole point of the symbols. The symbols are meant to be frequencies. They're meant to be actually 5D and beyond. They're not meant to be 2D. We look at them 2D, but I was taught that, you know, you could actually spin them and you could move them around. They were actually a tone, a frequency, just like we go into cymatics, and in cymatics they have the sacred geometry, the flower of life. So so it makes sense. I think with the Reiki, it makes sense that light language should exist, and in the ancient cultures they didn't there's lots of mantras, and they lots of spontaneous sort of forms of meditation in Qigong anyway. So I think this information is so important to now, and it's interesting for me where it is like this old thing of, I like you said, like, once you was a nurse, you didn't even believe in reflexology. And now you do all these, you do so many, more varied things than that. And I think it's interesting that we are, whether we realize it or not, that's what's happening. The energy that we're in, the sciencey side, they called it the galactic cloud. We've entered a galactic dust cloud that's 2,000 light years big. And it's just, we're going to be in it for 2,000 light years at least. And it's just going to intensify things more and more. That's why if you look for at least the last 20 years, how things turned on the head. There's so many more people awake now than there was 20, 30 years ago. There's so many more people asking questions that they wouldn't ask 20, 30 years ago. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And that's the whole point. But hey, as any good Taoist should say, what do I know?
And I think just to mention this as well, that light language, it kind of bypasses the head. It's the language of the heart and it's the language of the soul. And often when it's expressed, people feel a familiarity with it. It's kind of like it's home. It goes into your heart and it's kind of like, and it's the frequencies that you're feeling. You might think that you're hearing it, but you're feeling the frequencies with your whole body. So yes, it does bypass the linear mind, and our head doesn't have anything. How can I explain this? Our head can't really analyze. It doesn't have a point of reference for it. So that's why trying to work it out with your head just doesn't work. It's something that you feel with your heart. Perhaps with your higher mind, you might be able to tap into it. And yeah, I'm just nudged to say this as well, that a lot of the work that we've been doing collectively has been awakening our higher mind. It's taking us away from our physical brain, from that mind, and awakening our higher mind. But now we're moving into the heart. And it's time now to be walking our life from our heart space. So when we make our decisions, instead of using our linear mind to work it out, what does it feel like? Like if you've got two choices and you can't decide with your head which one to do, then try something different. Imagine that you're holding each choice in your hands. Which one feels smooth and comfortable? Which one's maybe a bit prickly? Or imagine that you're wearing your decisions. Which one, feels nice, or which one, it is like one of those prickly vest kind of things. Or a fork in the road. If your decision is that way or that way, and you look down the road, which way looks best for you? And this is because some of us will favour our visual senses. Some of us are more feelers. So these give you more choices as well as to the way that will work for you. So if you're a very visual person, see your choices. Which one looks bright and is, amazing colours? And if there's not much difference between them, then maybe it doesn't make that much difference in your decision. They might be actually both, equal paths to go down.
Yeah. Again, this is another one of these things. For anybody who's possibly older than 35, old education, you were taught in a certain way. The old school was taught very, unless you went to a private school, which they're actually allowed to teach in different ways. They're allowed to teach whichever way suits them, as long as they do certain things. I know that because I actually used to teach Qigong for private schools. If you're taught, when I was at school, I left school in 1986. And when I was at school, my results weren't that great. So, I had a couple of O-levels, mainly CSCs, and which don't even exist anymore. The teachers they just said, hyperactive. Well, my hyperactivity turned out to be basically dyslexia, which again wasn't even discovered, which is just a term, it's just a name, but it wasn't even discovered it wasn't discovered in that way until 1985 in the States and later here in the UK. But then I went to Open University and I learned from the audio books like Tony Buzzin and the advanced learning techniques. And you suddenly realise, hold up, there's all these different ways to learn, which they know about. People were using them back in the 70s. But our schools, for whatever reason, we don't use them. And so it's almost like you've got shades on. And then somebody, comes along and takes these shades off your eyes, and suddenly, instead of just seeing black and white, you're suddenly seeing colour. It's an interesting thing is that, you have so many different ways to listen to this information, and intuition is there. It's not a woo-woo thing. And the ancient knowledge talks about the intuition being your heart. That the ego monkey mind, which this is where at some point I will get sued by Disney, because where's the other one? Has he gone walkabouts? He may have gone walkabouts. I can't see him today. Oh well. So ego I represent by old Stitch. Those who remember Stitch. So or you could use Taz. All over the place. The ego's very loud, but it's the whole point of the forebrain. You get 70 to 90,000 thoughts in your forebrain every single day. And then the intuition is, I don't know. We'll use a teddy bear for today. My daughter gave me this 10 years ago. So the teddy bear or the intuition, you have to be quiet to listen because it whispers. And as you said, it's from the heart. And the ancient knowledge talk about when you listen to your heart, if it's and you want an answer to a certain thing, if it's light and expansive and you feel happy, that's a yes. And if it's contractive and feels fearful or feels heavy, then that's a no. And again, I think a lot of this we talk about, it needs to be taught because it's been buried so much we don't remember. Our kids remember until we start pushing it out of them. I find it irony, and with me and my partner, like this was 2002 and my daughter was born, I was quite insistent that, if my parents or her parents would, and my daughter Ketra was talking to herself or talking to the imaginary friend. It's not an imaginary, you can see it as whatever you want, but I can see its energy. My eyes are open. I can see a being. She's talking to beings, and most kids talk to beings. Most kids are channeling. Most kids are doing light language before we even knew what it freaking was. And that's the whole point. There's all this information. Hence, what the Taoists always sort of say: be like a child, take responsibility like an adult. So own your decisions, but be like a child. And all this stuff is all there, always has been there. But we've got to start going back to playing with it. We've got to start rejecting it, because rejecting it has brought us to where we are in society, where things are opposing opposites and falling apart. And the whole thing of everything feels so intense because that's what the energy is doing. It's building it all up to the forefront. And if you don't let go of it, it will shake you to bits. I just actually thought of it. Only works if you ever saw the movie, but it's a bit like the metaphor would be a bit like Contact. Have you ever seen the movie Contact? And they stuck the chair in that dome, and the chair is shaking to bits. And she was told not, there shouldn't be a chair. And she comes out of the chair and she floats. But the chair, the structure, everything that you're supposed to do, that the new vibrations were so intense that that was having violent results. But as soon as she let go and became formless and shapeless, everything was free and everything was easy. And I think that's the whole point. We've got to let go. We've got to find ways to being free and formless. But hey, what do I know?
And absolutely, the energy that's coming in at the moment is so strong. That's what it's doing. It's kind of like this, just on our bodies, on ourselves, and it's kind of like, it's such an encouragement for us to let go. And it's kind of going with the energies. If you're really hanging on to things, you're going against the flow of the energies. Like, we're being given so much support universally at the moment to let go and move forward. So you have to really be quite stuck and quite quite stubborn to not be going with that. And I just wanted to add what you were saying about the intuition as well. Intuition is our natural way of being. This is what I mean about it's as though we've been programmed to not be in our full power, not be in our full humanness. I think as a human, it's part of our way of being to be telepathic, to be able to see energy, to be able to have all of our senses, our clair, audience, sentience, cognizance, and voyance. Is that all of them? But it's about having those all active. And often we find when we first start on this that some might be a bit more active than others. For me, I've always been claircognizant. So I would just know things. And clairsentient, so I would feel things. When I work on the body, my hands and my eyes, my hands are really sensitive. And this is, I do distant treatments as well, so it's not just when someone's physically with me. But I can feel someone's energy, and they don't have to be physically in the room with me. And I feel that through my hands. But my clairaudience and my clairvoyance have got a lot stronger as well over time. But then maybe not my primary sense. And I think a lot of people who are primarily claircognizant find that really difficult to, because it drops in as a thought. It's like it comes in through your crown, and it's a thought. So you're like, well, how do I know that that's not just my thought? So that just takes a bit of practice, I think, to be working with that. Whereas perhaps if you're clairvoyant and you close your eyes and you see visions, then that maybe is making it more clear. Or if you're clairaudient and you hear a message, but a thought initially can be a little bit harder to trust. And I think I just used to have feelings about things, of presences in the room, for example. You might feel that there's something over there, and you go to look and you don't see anything because you're looking not with your peripheral vision as well. Yeah. Or you might see something with your peripheral vision, like just a bit of movement, and you go to look, but it is your peripheral vision that's the most relaxed area of your vision that you will see things from.
But then because this goes into stuff my teachers were teaching. The Torah Field, which the medical profession they call the biomagnetic field of the heart. So they know that the heart actually has this bioelectric magnetic field. The happier you become, the more it expands. For most people, it's round about 15-ish feet. Some people, so radius, but it can actually be a lot smaller. But the more you're in fear, the more it shrinks. And if it ever gets small enough that it actually goes within your body actually starts to stop healing significantly because it's not covered in that field. So this and like I say, originally it was just known as the Torah Field. They called it the Torah Field, but scientists actually found it. Just like and this is why I sort of frustrate some people, because I love science and the spirituality. My teachers very much is that find the science to prove what the ancient knowledge talks about. And the interesting point is we are in that time where everything's being proven. Everything, the quantum physics is proving the whole multidimensional theory. There is cameras that can see the meridians, the chakras, the auras, the Merkaba, the Torah field, the three Dantians. Everything that is said to exist can be seen. And then goes into spooky stuff, which I sort of hint about that I've worked with in close protection, and I worked with certain agencies, and they sort of almost said in a whimsical manner that, oh yeah, well, we're fully aware of fairies and Sasquatch and unicorns. They exist. They're just in different dimensions. And what happened was, and all the folklore stories were never made up in people's heads. They existed, but as the energy intensified or got heavier, we lost connection with those densities. Those densities are higher, so the energy has to be higher for us to see them, whether that's in our body or in our physical reality. Hence why there were certain places, like UK was known for certain places where you could see fairies, whether there's certain places in the States you can see Sasquatch, and the whole thing of ghosts, is that a lot of the information is saying, well, actually not all ghosts, but some of the ghosts are actually not ghosts, they're different dimensions. Spirit world is just another dimension to all the other dimensions that exist. I think things that we're so used to seeing things in a certain way, we're so used to seeing information, even we've got computers and we've got 3D, for goodness sake, but we still take things for granted in 2D. We still look at certain things and only see it in 2D. Yet we know a book has different dimensions, it has different structures. We know that we should know that there's tiny little atoms inside that book, just like there are atoms inside our body. And inside that atom, there's so much energy waiting there to be used. But we take it for granted, or we ignore it, or we don't. And the interesting thing of all of this, again, my Sifus, they were teaching people in private industry and teaching people in business to be empathic, to be, clairaudient, to use their psychic, to use their abilities to either tune into different ideas, or, because the ancient knowledge talks about the ideas being like a World Wide Web, and you get spiritual downloads. So when you channel or you tune into the Akashic records, you're going online and you're asking Google, asking G something, and it gives you 20 possibilities. and that's the whole point, all this information. And the interesting thing is that my teachers taught, I learned from my Sifus, that there's lots of people out there that, even though publicly and in the certain sectors where they say, oh, this is all rubbish, or this is woo-woo, there are other industries that use this all the freaking time. They use empaths like lie detectors in businesses. They'll use psychics all the time. I looked after Uri Geller for a while, and Uri Geller was known for using... He was being paid by different companies to find diamonds, water, oil, minerals, and he would be given a map, and he would either use a pendulum or just look at it, and he would go, it's there. And they were paying him, and this was in the 80s, well, this was in the 90s, they were paying him between £10,000 and £100,000 for that information. So if he's fake fraud, if he's just a magician that bends spoons, they're not going to give him $100,000 for nothing. There was, and the whole point is that and there was a lot of that going on. There are people used in meetings like muses, sort of like a muse, but they basically build the energy up. They increase other people's energy in the room. They're called, or at least my Sifus, they were called chargers. All of this exists. The difference is we don't know about it. We're finding it out for ourselves. This is like the rebellion. We are the rebellion. We are the revolution that we're actually going, no, I'm interested in this. I want to learn this. And I think it's that when you start actually looking at information, you start finding actually this is not woo-woo. It's far more common than you think. It's far more known than you think, but it's just restricted for whatever reason. Whatever the reasons were, it's irrelevant. The whole point is we need to start using it and start practicing it and finding it out for ourselves. And that's the whole point, use it and use these skills. And I just want to add this for me, is that these are all skills. They're not, they're not gifts, they're skills. Is when somebody says, oh, I'm gifted with this or that, the other, that implies that, you have to be able to do it. Everybody has to learn to tie up their shoelaces. Everybody has to learn how to open a door. Everybody has to learn how to hold a pair of chopsticks. If you don't learn to hold a pair of chopsticks, you won't be good at it. As simple as that. And, so you go to a Chinese restaurant, you'll ask for a knife and fork because you can't use chopsticks. But does that mean you can't learn? No. It just means maybe for you it's going to take longer to learn. So anything can be learned. And I know that for a fact because my Sifus taught in the 60s and 70s people psychic abilities. They taught them clairaudience. They taught them empathic skills. They taught them all these abilities. So anybody can learn them. It's about practice. It's about open-mindedness and practice. You've got to turn off that forebrain that tells you this is nonsense. Oh, it's not going to work. Oh, the fear. And allow actually the fun and the opportunity for it to work to happen. But it doesn't. They do exist. It does work, and certain sciences know about it, and so no. But anyway, what do I know?
Definitely with you on that one. And perhaps some people are born with these abilities more pronounced, so they don't have to learn it. Like some people are really good artists; they can just pick up a pen and do it more skillfully. But you're right that anyone can learn this. And
well, I was just going to quickly say is that with that the whole thing of art or skills with skills is that again the ancient ones would say that if you could pick up a pen and be really good, it meant that one or two or several lifetimes you spent lots of time doing it. So this lifetime, that information is so drilled in, you can't forget it. Where other things may be that, you could have been an excellent bowman in your last lifetime, but if it wasn't there enough or a couple of lifetimes ago, and you might not be able to now, but after doing it a couple of times, you suddenly go, oh. And I think that's the ancient knowledge says is that we are immortal, that we're not one person, we're not a consciousness or soul having a couple of lives, that we've been here since the dawn of time and we've lived over and over and over again. But it's so much information and it's so multidimensional that we narrow down, or when we come into this reality, we only get to, at first, focus on one thing, one sliver, which is this reality here and now. But when you start working with energy, when you start expanding, whether it's Qigong, whether it's Reiki, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, the more energy you have, the more your conscious awareness expands. The more you perceive, the more you start actually, everything becomes bigger and bigger, and you start seeing the bigger picture. And that's the point, is that when we increase our energy, we actually increase multidimensionally what we really are. We get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we see more and more of our true potentiality. Right. Sorry.
Agreed. And people use that without even realizing that there are. For example, if you go into a room and there's been an argument, we might call it the atmosphere in here isn't very good, but it's energy. It's just another word for it. I do work on the land as well. I do activations on the land, and I've done a lot of clearing of energy in places and houses and buildings as well that just feel icky. You can feel it when you go in. You know, the hairs on your neck or on your arms stand on end. You can feel a bit sick with it. There was one particular house that I worked on. I lived in Australia for 12 years, and there was one particular house there that I worked on. And that house was just down this particular corridor. It took every ounce of energy for me to stay in that room, because all my, often if something doesn't feel good, I find I'm walking out before I register, this place doesn't feel good. It's like my body has an instant reaction and will act on it. So it took all my energy to actually stay in that room. There was pressure on my stomach. There was pressure in my head. But the friends of mine who lived in that house said that when the decorator was walking down that corridor, he was like, whoa, I don't know what's going on down there, but, you could really, really feel it. But they can be cleared. I usually find when I do work on houses or on buildings, it's usually, in my experience, it's something to do with the land. It's some distortion usually where one or more ley lines meet, so it creates a bit of a vortex, a bit of a portal, and that can get distorted depending what has happened on the land there, depending, what's happened over its history, because it's still. If there's been, a massacre there on that site, for example, which was a lot of the work that I did in Australia in its recent history, then that energy is still felt there, but you can clear it. So when we worked on that particular room in that house, it was really interesting because I got a message from Mother Earth that I had to pass on to my friends. And I said, this is going to sound really weird, but I feel like I'm being asked by the earth to actually clear the soil. It's like there's something in the ground that isn't working. And my friend said, you won't believe the people that lived there before, every plastic bottle that they'd ever had, they just threw onto the ground, and it was thigh deep in plastic bottles. So, yeah, it's really interesting kind of when you do this work, the messages that you get, and learning to trust your intuition as well. And actually, if people do card readings or whatever as well, which I do not that often, but if you're getting a message, if you're getting a thought that is just, you get a certain word or words that just keep knocking until you actually voice them, and they might make no sense to you whatsoever, but when you pass them on to the person, it's kind of like, yeah, I know exactly what that is. And something else I wanted to say, just to add to what you were saying before about the aura. And when you think loving thoughts, it really strengthens your aura. And I used to take dowsing rods with me when I was teaching Reiki for that purpose, so that people could learn to use the dowsing rods, because they go back as you reach the edge of someone's aura, the dowsing rods go back. And then I'd say, okay, think of someone you love. Think of something that you love. Think loving thoughts. You do the experiment again, and the aura has grown by about a foot, at least. So, yeah, that was always confirmation for me that when you think loving thoughts, it's strengthening your aura, so it therefore must be strengthening your physical body.
Yeah. And in Tibet, so the rainbow body ascension, they call what I say, technically, the one behind me is part of the rainbow body ascension, and the rainbow body to ascend for the Tibetan monks to ascend is that they spend around about 10 to 13 years focusing, in a cave up in a mountain, focusing on nothing but loving thoughts. And, it's that whole thing of, they're focusing on increasing that field more and more and more, and, increasing the light, increasing the love. And that's what it's all about. And the mentioned, earlier, the Egyptian, the Egyptian Jedi, they were the keepers of that light. The light, not just the water or the energy that went from through the spine all the way, through the top of the head all the way down the front of the inside of the body and in the perineum. But that light was this pure light. Is that if you kept it, the brighter you kept it, or the more you put love into it, the more you build that loving energy, the brighter and brighter it would become. And the brighter it would become, the further the darkness would have to be away, which was again the old knowledge, is that in the universe there has to be dark and there has to be light. It's the way that this reality works. You can't have one without the other. But the whole point is the brighter your light, the further the darkness is. So you don't want to be attacked by the darkness. Keep focusing on your love. Don't worry about big shields or trying to build big fortresses or manifesting these walls around you. Just keep focusing on increasing your light more and more and more. And what that does is that will naturally push away the darkness, because it doesn't. As long as it's persistent and strong, you can increase your light and you can make yourself very bright. But hey, it's all good.
And I think you become a frequency that is not in alignment with that energy as well. So it will either repel it, or it will change it to love as it gets close through entrainment, which is like the principle of, two guitars in a room, you play the string on one, it resonates the string in the other. It's about bringing things into harmony and balance. And whichever of the energies is stronger will therefore, I can't quite find the words, but you know what I'm trying to say there. It's law of attraction in essence. It's that you convert. It's the strongest frequency works. So it's and that's the interesting thing. It's the strongest frequency. So if that fear is strong, that will and it's this interesting thing that. You go back to the FBI, they did case studies back in the 90s of focus with meditation all over America, and they focused on one of their second to last experiments was in Washington State. They had 2,000 meditators in Washington State for a weekend, focusing on peace and love and light, and they dropped the crime rate by 25%. The last experiment they did, they actually had 7,000 people worldwide focusing, hardcore meditators, focusing on peace and light and love for a week. And it dropped the crime rate and acts of terror by over 70%, over 75%, I think it was. And the interesting thing on that is that 7 months later was September the 11th. So, there's lots of, there's information out there. And it's funny how our newspapers are so focused on the fear. We always want to be, terrorism and this and that. Be afraid of this and be afraid of that and be afraid of the other. Or argue and disagree with, and it's like, just, you believe in what you believe. I believe in what I believe, and focus on the light. If it leads you to Rome, what does it matter which path you get? So it's all about. I think the collective consciousness is all about, if you're focusing on your version of light and what you feel is light, then that's all that matters. You focus on building yours, and it's changing certain things. Like I say, not seeing these skills as woo-woo or scary, not so much seeing things as good or bad, because when you label stuff, or you focus on the negativity, you're focusing on the negativity. So you're going to get more negativity. Focus on the positivity,
negativity. You want things to change in your little neck of the woods, in your little society. Change things, and because if we expect the governments to change it, it's never going to happen. If we want things to change, it has to be on our level. It has to be ground root level, and we have to change it like one thing at a time, and and build things up, and build up our own little communities, and change things. You want a better village. Keep smiling at people. Do free hugs. Say hello to people. Scares the living bejesus out of them sometimes. I love doing it. It's fun for all the family. Well, it's fun for me anyway. So, go, hello! And, scare people. But it's making them laugh. That's the whole point. We've lost that art of humour. Because that's also been affected as well. Oh, this is funny. That's not funny. This, that, and the other. And it's like, just fun things that are funny, or just smile for smiling's sake. Smile because you feel like it, rather than having to have a reason for it. And then we have to get away from this negative energy. We have to get away from this fear. And you can't defeat this stuff by attacking it. You can only defeat it by increasing your love and increasing your light.
And the only way to change your external world is to change your inner world. It is the only way. And if there's things that you're seeing in your external world, what is that in you? What aspect of that are you still working with in your field and putting out there, so that is what you're seeing in your external world?
Well, and that really goes into the fractals or the sacred geometries. That what people don't understand is, and there are certain practices that talk about it, like in Zen, in Huna, which is a Hawaiian, or Ho'oponopono. A lot of people have heard of that one, where it comes from this system called Huna, the dragon energy, and it's this the cloud whispers in China, in Taoism. They had their version, and it's this whole thing of everything on the outside is a reflection of what's inside you. And you want to change anything on the outside, you have to see its equal opposite. You have to see its mirror image within inside you, that feeling or whatever it is, and then clear it, work on it. And in essence, that's really what Ho'oponopono is all about. That's what mantras are all about. That's what light language is actually. It's trying to expand you. This is, and I think, I think there's this interesting, people, what does it mean? What does it mean? Well, the fact you're asking that question is you're missing the point anyway. It means there's this interesting thing with Chinese and Japanese, but especially like Chinese, is that most Chinese words are more artistic. They have different answers, and each one has at least 5 different answers. So when you put 3 words together, you've at least got 15 to 30 variables of what it could mean. And of course, the more words you have, the more it could expand. So the whole point is that, when we add stuff, it just actually adds the possibilities and increases the possibilities. And the whole point for me of the light language, the light codes, there's so much information in there. You can focus on a tiny little dot, or you can focus on the whole thing. And you're meant to actually supposed to do both at the same time. Is that true? Dimensional thinking is that you're looking at all angles, all situations, and that's how my teachers taught me to think, is that you don't think linear, you don't think in just this set pattern. It's a bit like playing chess, but instead of being one move ahead, you're 15 chess games ahead. Is that you actually see it in so many different ways and so many variations that it's all part of the same thing. But there is no good or bad. That's the point. There is, and that's with shadow work. What my teachers taught me is that shadow work is not about getting over the past pain. Is that those pains created situations for you to grow in the future, or situations for you to get stronger. And that was the whole point. Everything, there is no good or bad. There just is. And the fact I can say that nowadays without getting my head ripped off is showing that we're growing and expanding. Because 20 years ago, I would say that and somebody would bring up World War II or bring up Hitler or because, how can bad be not bad? And it's like, yeah, but it all leads to something else. It's the whole point, and if this was a computer game, you wouldn't worry so much about the bad stuff because it's a computer game. Well, how do you know this isn't a computer game? You've actually got scientists that are now talking that they actually don't know whether this is a computer simulation or not. And in the ancient knowledge, they talk about that illusion, that Maya, that this could just be one dimension of many, and we actually exist in many different dimensions all at the same time. We don't necessarily remember it, but maybe that's what deja vu is. But anyway, what do I know?
Yeah, the holographic universe, that it's all a hologram. And sometimes things give us the opportunity to anchor the opposite vibration in as well. I do like Matt Kahn, and one of the things he advocates is if you see something, like if you're seeing people arguing or whatever, that can give you the opportunity to may all beings live in peace and harmony. If you're stating that, then you're anchoring that energy. You can, and maybe you're not at the stage of embodying that yourself, but you can at least bring that opposite energy in and anchor it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that goes into fun little tricks I did when I was younger. My Sifis would would say, you've said about like the land and the ley lines that according to the ancient knowledge that everything, whether it's an atom or whether it's a whole universe or a whole galaxy, everything has a meridian, a set of meridians, chakras, auras, Merkaba, Torah Field, and Dantian. And these are different layers of in the consciousness. They're different layers or different sides to that consciousness. And so the ley lines of the planet are just the meridians of the planet. The chakras of the planet are different vortexes. The science is saying that the Merkaba, the Star of David, is actually a pyramid, one pyramid pointing up, one pyramid pointing down. They can actually put that on a planet at the north and south poles, and they will actually show you where the vortexes are, where major vortexes are on the planet. The toroidal field there, so it's showing that the Torah field is actually the energy of the planet itself, and the Torah fields within the galaxy, and there is scientists, quantum physicists that actually found the Merkaba in the fabric of space itself, and so on and so forth. But everything is conscious, everything is alive, everything is interactive. And so the whole point is that, you could go into a room where there's negative energy and you can affect that energy. It is, if you raise your vibration, you can affect the vibration of anything else. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not permanent because everything is free will. So if somebody decides, no, I want to be miserable, they can go back to being miserable once you're gone, or they can increase their miserability. And what one of my Sifis would always say is, if you're going to be miserable, at least enjoy it, and that's the whole point, is that all these energies are there to be experienced, and we actually have free will, and that's the thing. And so when people are sort of pushed into a fear-based, this whole thing of bullying, I was bullied as a kid, and I realised that with bullying, you give that power. If somebody tries to do things to manipulate you in a certain way, and you give them the power of allowing them to do it by accepting that, they're stronger than me, or I must be scared, I must be this, or I must be that. But when you learn to overcome it and to stand up against it, and you learn that there is no fear. I mean, obviously, if you're standing on a ledge and there's a 50,000 foot drop, you probably don't want to fall off. But actually being scared of falling off is more likely to make you fall off. Is that by actually relaxing and just breathing and focusing on your feet being on that bit of ground, or on, if you're on a tightrope, pushing in the tightrope and balancing. When you do that, when you be one with that moment, you live in the moment of the universe, the moment of that energy. And then, everything becomes the Tao, everything becomes the flow. The problem is we normally end up so disconnected, we miss all these opportunities and all this stuff, or we get pulled this way and that way. And I'm definitely no master. I definitely, I still have opportunities where people may annoy me, or I get peed off and I have a little rant and then I let it go. That's the whole point. And in Taoism, that's not a bad thing. If you're affected by those energies, let it out, and then it's gone. If you try to deny it, you'll hold it back, and then you're going to end up with loads of shadow work to do, and that's the whole part. All the shadow work you've got is either is not let go energy. It's energy that's not been, is blockage, or that's not been released, that's not been forgiven, that's not been loved and understood, and so the whole thing of, for me at least, is that this whole thing of darkness and light. The darkness is just a sifu. It's just a teacher. It's just a teacher that teaches in a certain way, and the best way to learn from that sifu is to do the opposite of what it wants. Otherwise, you get caught in its rut. You get caught in that program. So it's just learning to do things. I think this big thing, if we can embrace our own love, our own power, we can actually start to let go of some of the past traumas. There'll always be something that will scare you, because that's the point. It's meant to scare you, to give you something to grow upon. But you can move on from it. You can let go from it until the next time, so on. But hey, what do I know?
You brought up a good point about the loving, and I think that's the most important part of the shadow work. It's about seeing our patterns that we're working from so that we can change them. But in terms of those aspects of ourselves that we're denying, the biggest part of that is about loving those aspects of yourself. Whatever you're doing, it's so important to be gentle with ourselves and loving with ourselves, because we can be so cruel to ourselves. When I first started on this journey, I was really quite hard on myself, but I had no idea that I was hard on myself. I didn't think I was hard enough on myself. And I had a reading from a lady, angel card readings, and she was saying, the angels are saying, you're really mean to yourself. And I'm like, it was such a revelation to me. I had no idea at all. And as I say, thought I wasn't hard enough on myself. Yeah. So that's a huge lesson for us, to actually really be gentle with ourselves. We can be much more amenable and gentle with everyone else than to ourselves. And it's so important, because no one else really is responsible for that. It's only us.
Yeah, it goes back to that free will.
Yeah.
It goes back to that free will. Yeah, you have to realise how much... I find that really, really interesting when, whatever you believe in, like religiously or otherwise, it's like, it's that you have so much power. You are your own creator. And people, no, I'm not. Oh no, I can't handle that power. Oh no, I can't be that. And it's like, well, you'll never expand past a certain point until you realise that that's exactly who you are. You're meant, you are the, you have this ability to create everything and anything. And the realities that we live in is that whole point, is that you use that ability of manifestation. It doesn't, at this moment in time, it's not instant. But as things will change, and I think they do, I think they will, or you go to certain pockets or certain places that you can want something or think something, and boom, it's suddenly there. and with enough people or in certain areas or with enough energy yourself, that happens. There are definitely I've been to China, Wudang Mountain, and I always say Wudang Mountain is like it's like being on drugs times 100. If you're a little bit psychic, you're really psychic there. If you whatever your abilities, but there was strange ones that we were there, and one of our students suddenly felt the urge to juggle, and he said, "Oh, you got stuff I can juggle." I go, "Okay." We gave him a sock and a couple of tins, and he started. He ended. I think it was about 16 things he was juggling. Okay. I didn't know you could juggle. And he said, nor did I. What? And my seafood sort of, again, sort of like, not even thinking twice, going, yeah, that, here, but there are places on the planet where the more energy you have, the more of your old abilities that you once did in other lifetimes will kick online, will actually, activate. That all skills are there. Everything you've ever done, everything you could ever do, already exists. Because we see things in linear, where actually everything's happening all at once, according to the ancient knowledge and according to in quantum physics. Yeah. So that you go to the right place, and you want to be a brain surgeon, it will suddenly happen. You have to obviously have all the equipment there at the time, but the whole point is that the more energy you have, the more you can actually achieve, the more things you can actually do, because the more you'll expand, and the more your awareness expands as well. And I think, I don't know, I've been saying this more often this year, and I still think it's a lot for people to take in sometimes, but we are so much more capable of what we think, but it's about taking away those barriers. Stop thinking you can't. Yeah. And that happens in many different ways. And that's why I love the light language, because the light language and light codes, because sometimes just staring or listening to one of those changes a person's almost instant, but it's like music, the whole thing of music, certain music can change a person's point of view, change a person's reality. And I've definitely seen it with people with the light language and the light code, is that, things can be turned on their head. Let's say it like that.
And, something that might sound a bit strange, but it kind of resonates for me, is that I'm actually speaking geometry as well. I'm speaking sacred geometry.
Yeah.
When those codes come out, they contain the structure, the geometric structure, for the physical to be built upon. I'm just been making a few notes while you've been speaking, just because things come up when you mention them. But I think I've got most of them.
I've got. Unfortunately, my computer still won't let me. It's still not registering the. So no. It's just no. It's the same one. It won't register your lovely pictures that the light code that you sent me. It has one. It's not the original one, but this is one that I think we would, because when I first saw the one you sent me, and I think I said something to you, and we doubled it, and it definitely looks.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yes.
So talk about this one for us.
Okay, so the codes that I did for you originally, they tend to be quite small. I don't know if you can see that behind me, but that's usually...
give us a second. Keep pointing at it, and I'll make you the solo. Oh, yeah. It's still quite small.
Oh, that's all right. I can point afterwards. So the codes are probably about that big that I do for people. And then I will, what I did with those codes was actually put them in an app to reverse them, because the background was light and the image was dark. So I didn't start with like the negative, and then put them through a filter. but mirrored them. And this is often where the magic happens, because you don't know when you're drawing something. I can't imagine what it's going to look like when it's being mirrored. And with these apps, it can go either from the outside of the image, mirror it that way, or the middle, or the top and the bottom, or a combination of those. So when this started coming through, and I've really enjoyed doing your codes. Sometimes when I birth codes, especially when it's for humanity and not an individual, painful to birth. But your codes were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing your codes, and I giggled a lot while I was doing yours. And then when this came through, I sent it to you straight away, because I was like, whoa, look at that. And it looks, what the title came through as was it being a golden dragon portal. And I can really see like a golden dragon there. But there's also, like, from the top corners, that it's a bit like horns as well coming out. And that, so when you hold these images, you can feel the energy coming through them.
I've actually got the original. I found the original. There you go. I've just, so there we go. That was the original one you sent me.
Yeah, I think I'd already reversed that one because it was on a...
Oh, actually, yeah.
It stands out better when you reverse it. I've started doing my images on black now. Sometimes on black. When I do them for people, they tend to be on different colour pieces of paper. And whichever colour is there you go, is whatever intuitively I feel to do. So those original codes, I don't have like, this means this means that doesn't really work for me. Sometimes, like some of those, say for example, how can I describe this? So that there's 4 things that are kind of double there, like 4 light language symbols that are double. And they tend to be a little bit more feminine on one side, like quite soft and wavy. And the other side is often a bit more masculine. That comes through a lot on codes. I'm assuming that's kind of like some balancing of the polarities there, of the male-female energies. But other than that, I'm not always given explanations of what is actually happening with the codes, what they mean specifically. But when I do them for people, it's kind of like takes you to your next level, and I connect with people's higher self as well, and ask for the codes that will, move you forward, basically. And then often what I do with codes is put them through other apps and add light to them as well. So that one that you've got up there, when I first did that, and I did that one for you because you'd asked me to, and I found that code just way too busy when it first started, when it first came through. I was kind of like, whoa, it was a bit full on. But once I worked it with the filters and the colours, and it added like a real 3-dimensional aspect to it. So the finished one of that one, the title I was given was Doorway to Alcion, which is one of the stars in the Pleiades, I think. So these can be portals as well. And when you sit and gaze at these, they can really take you off somewhere, especially the ones, the more recent ones that I've been doing. I think you can't quite see the light on that one. There wasn't that much light on that one. I think it's only in the corners that you can't quite see. But the light can really add depth to it as well. But say, for example, that bit at the base of that, like I can really feel I'm being pulled into there. That's where the portal aspect of it comes in for me. I can really feel that my energy is going, whoa, I'm actually being pulled in there. So these images are amazing to and I spend quite a lot of time just gazing at these images as well. Knowing that it's working on me just through looking at them.
Oh, it's on my phone as a screensaver. There's this one, but I love all of them. So definitely, I definitely enjoyed you playing with them and so do this and do this and do this. And it's like, this is cool.
It's a beautiful creative process. I really, really love it. And it often, unfortunately, happens quite late at night. I kind of get a bit of a nudge, and then I'm kind of like, a bit too excited to sleep. But the latest ones that have been coming in, and that one.
Let me just make you the main screen and drop this there. Just give me a second. Yeah. Oh.
So this one. So something that I was working with in October is the wound of separation. I'll just take that picture of the film. So the wound of separation, which is the core wound that we all have, and these were the codes to transmute that wound of separation. And from this, I've got some new images that have come through. That one the latest one that I showed you is from that.
Oh, wow.
And so, abandonment, rejection, the differences between male and female on the planet, the apparent differences, there aren't really, but the apparent differences that we've been working with are all to do with separation and feeling different, feeling alone. So this separation wound is the core wound that so many other wounds are kind of like stem from. And some of these codes, like one of these codes, I'm not actually, most of my codes I just let out publicly. I'm going to be looking at printers and printing these off quite soon, hopefully, so that people can actually purchase the images, because it's really, and I keep staring at the wall because my favourite new image is just there on the wall, and it's just like, rah! And that is one that is going to be part of a course. This one is to do with merging our masculine and feminine, but there's also very strong beloved energy in this. This is also, I feel, it's a code for calling in that beloved energy, that kind of partner energy, but it's also about merging our masculine and feminine, and merging those polarities, which is so important on the planet at the moment. This one, so that original code kind of holds all of these. This one, again, there's an event coming up on the 22nd, and this one is the picture for that. But other than that, I haven't really shared this one. But again, this one is to do with, the title for this one was The Kingdom of, the Gateway to Heaven is Wide Open. And when you kind of gaze at this one, you really get those heavenly energies coming through into your body. And it is showing us that there is no separation. It's called The Gateways Are Wide Open. The gateways were always wide open. We just didn't know that the gateways were there, or even that heaven was there, maybe because we've been so separate from it. And by heaven, I really just mean source energy. So this original code, it's almost like, when you eat bean sprouts, they're so good for you because they have everything that the broccoli or whatever is going to grow into. That's what I feel about this code. All these codes that are coming off it are actually contained in this one. And at some point, I'm actually going to sell this one. This is going to be the first original that I'm going to sell. And I'm going to be asking for offers, not in an auction kind of way. It's not going to be done like that. That's too kind of old paradigm, I guess you might call it. What I will do when I have the offers in is ask this who it wants to go to. And that's how I'm feeling that I'm going to sell that one. I haven't put anything out there about that yet, but that has been dropping in. That,
well, you have now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do with that one. And also do with that beloved code. I haven't set a date for this yet, but I'm going to be doing an online Zoom for that. So the code and the light language on the call will be something. It'll be like I was going to say a course, but that just sounds, it's not the right word for it, but it'll be like an hour-long call and recorded as well. So even if people aren't present, they can pick that up later.
Interesting. Definitely.
And it's been a while since I've done a lot of collaborations in the last couple of years, and I've not done that much stuff kind of on my own, really. So I think that's the one I think that I'm going to start that with. But then it just dropped in, maybe it should be me and somebody male doing that call in the interest of balance. But who knows? that was my idea for my next little project.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up. I mean, we've actually been going an hour and a half. Which is cool. It's been a really cool show. So is there anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Can I do a little bit of light language?
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. Just checking my list. I think I've said everything that I wrote down that I wanted to say. So that's awesome. We didn't say much about dragons, but that's all right.
We do another show. Yeah, you can come back on. Oh, I love this. We can do as many as you want. We can just keep coming. Just keep coming.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So I'm doing a series of 21 days of light language at the moment. And the reason for that was I actually wanted to do 21 days on myself. And I was chatting to Tom Medina publicly and he said, why don't you do it live? And I kind of committed to it inadvertently because it was out there in the public arena. So I'm doing 21 days.
That Toddy, that Tom Medina, you got to watch him. You got to watch him.
But, my higher self obviously colluded with his higher self. And as soon as it started coming out of my mouth, I was like, no, come backwards. Anyway, so I'm doing 21 days of light language activations, which are just on my Facebook page. So today there's 2 for 1. This is the second. Okay, I think this might just be a general one, not a specific one. So just bringing our awareness to our heart space first, and just bringing our consciousness to that area. In fact, let's do this one for the heart. So the frequencies and the codes and the keys that will be brought in are going to help to expand our hearts, going to help us to open our hearts and let go of any grief that might be in there, and let go of any old emotions that are stuck in there that prevent us from being our full open-hearted selves. And the light language will often come through my hands in the form of symbols. So it's kind of like you get more than one stream. It's coming through my mouth, but it's also coming through my hands as well. Alcion gulaki de gurta to that another makilaka oyster lacado on a macala. A halakadulaki de gurta oysterlaka urta da no macalia. A halakadulaki de gusta like a gurtonama. I could like a good I could look at a stick like a rotor on a macala. A hanakidlaki to ordana and a makiort. A halakadulaka de gurta oysterlana and a makilaka or namakala. A hanakidlaka ordana ki ordad. Ora da ordana mikiano gulle. Helekadulakarot on a makesta, Eleorodorana makelle hjort og istola, Elekinokulla kanabakullaki istileket on a maka, a hanlekulekit on a maka, Eleorod on a makalaki ist ir ol alana makilla. I did it orotana makillakudust. I'd let it to balakanakidlak numestuilekad orot ni atudla. Helekiorla namakulla, anakat ostella. Henamakillakid orot anamakilla. A handled orta anamaket et ort astot akilect orta. So just taking a few long and slow deep breaths. Breathing those codes all over your body into every cell. Not just in your heart space, but everywhere, activating your DNA. Orna Magdalene no mokuya, electo gorata stunna namakella anako una. Yanla non osta. Kilana namakulla at osta. So just breathing deeply. Your eyes are closed, just starting when you're ready to open them, and just moving your body, whatever way you feel. Drinking plenty of water. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. That was really cool. Yeah. So I was doing my qigong at the time, so helping flow that energy for me in. So yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this immensely.
So have I. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great again. So well, like I say, so therefore that means you can book another one up when you want. Just go ahead. I think I've got one more space for December, and then I've got to, in the next couple of days, I've got to stick January and February up there. So, because I'm already almost full. I'm technically full in December, but I could happily squeeze you in. I love all this stuff. So that's all cool. So yes, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. And what I'm looking forward to when you actually going to like the production of these, because I will definitely be promoting these for sure. So they're definitely worth it. So thank you so much. This has been awesome. Everybody else out there, so what's happening in the world of the Way of Conscious Mindfulness Network tonight? So in about 10, 12, so in about 2.5 hours, the wonderful Hayley Lynn will be doing her dream, Hayley's Dream Academy. Dream Academy, Dream School. I have to remember her show's name. Which is lucid dreaming. So the art of lucid, which is another reality that we're only just learning to tap into again. And then Wednesday, there's nothing on Tuesday as such. Wednesday, we have the wonderful Robin McClendon doing conversations with Gaia. Then she's also with some bloke called Boggy, and they'll be doing the Mother, the Dragon, and the Wu Chi, which is our reading show where she's actually got these oracle cards that she created. I'm just actually checking to see if there's any other shows. Hayley's Lucidity School, that's what it's called, is in just a few hours' time. Conversations with Gaia, and then the Mother, the Dragon, the Wu Chi. We then have, on Thursday, we have Tai Chi Chi Dao, which is with me, and the Way of the Dragon Dog Shaman, which is Reiki and Qigong done together as traditionally used to be. And then on Saturday, you have Synchronista, which is Krista Higginbotham with Synchronista Saturdays, and then it goes back to Shaman Chronicles. So there's no other Way of Conscious Mindfulnesses this week as such. So that's it for now. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you so much, Denise. This has been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you, and thank you everybody watching.
Cool. And so for you, don't go anywhere just yet. But everybody else, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, until at least the next live show is Wednesday. There are a few repeats every single week. We add a few. We share from our sister stations like the wonderful Todd Medina with Zoology, and also the Freedom Network with my Dragon Dog sister, Shanine Mooland. So we also share their sort of stuff as well, because it's all about sharing each other and helping each other. Care Bear if you dare. Until next time, deep breath, Boggy. So until next time, take care. Thank you so much. It's goodbye from the wonderful Denise.
Bye-bye.
It's goodbye from myself, Sifu Boggy, and it's goodbye from the show itself. So until next time, love, chi, and Shen from the Way of Conscious Mindfulness.